As part of our meditation this evening, these words of the great German poet, Rainer Maria Rilke. Now, you feel how nothing clings to you. Your vast shell reaches into endless space. A billion stars go spinning through the night, blazing high above your head. But in you is the presence that will be when all the stars are dead. And these words from Lao Tzu. Do you have the patience to wait until the mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving until the right action arises by itself? The Master does not seek fulfillment. Not seeking, not expecting. The Master is present and can welcome all things. And now we must ask ourselves, can we simply be present here, now, as the floodgates of meditation open to receive us? It's all there for the asking, for the taking, but we have to be aware of the treasure that surrounds us. Deeply relax and feel that your body is at the center of the entire universe, receiving and transmitting messages from the sun, the moon, and all the galaxies. Thank you, Bharati. Thank you, Karana. Thank you, Karana. From the sound of that powerful chanting, methinks that we have a large contingent of teachers who are in training. Am I right? Raise your hands if you're a teacher. No, see? Squeezing us till the last drop. Congratulations are in order, and I'm certainly among your fans. We have loved having you here. You have set a very high standard for other teacher training programs. And where's Yogananda? He's taking the day off. He's with his dog. He's allowed to feed the dog. I like that dog, don't you? He's a wonderful dog. So we'll talk more as the evening goes on, but are you all able to stay until the end? Because I heard that you were so exhausted, and you should have been, from the hard classes and the intensity, that you got the evenings off. So I didn't see all of you on Saturday evening last week, or maybe another time. But I understood, because I wouldn't have gone either if I had taken all those classes and was so getting up 5:30 in the morning. What is that? So 5:30.
That's sleeping in. 5 p.m.
Oh, we're going to change that. That's way too early. So, but I want you to know I didn't begrudge it, because I didn't know how the ones who came to the Saturday night program managed to come. And we had about half of you. So let's see. I won't say who unless the person agrees to let me say who. There's nothing wrong with what was written and why we're opening the program, this part of the program, with this email question that came. I received it last week sometime from one of you, from one of the teachers in training. And I felt very happy to receive this question. She wrote, I'll leave out the nice things she said about me. Just 2 things. She liked the program, is what she said. But this was a question. When Guruji wrote that first we need to feel and understand God before we reach enlightenment, was he saying that since God is inside of us, that as we feel and understand ourselves more, that's when we will feel free, that's when we will feel and understand God? In other words, she's saying, since God is inside of us, if we begin to feel and understand ourselves more, that's when we will feel and understand God? That question, said the young woman, that question came to me very clearly after your talk. So I just had to reach out and ask. last week that was one of the statements of Sri Brahmananda that absolutely caught our attention, because who else but a great guru would say, first we need to feel and understand God before we reach enlightenment. Such a strange statement. We talked about it a little bit. And what I'm going to do is read what I wrote to her in response and see what you understand I'm trying to say. At the end, I say, words can sometimes be misleading. As hard as you try to choose the right words to respond to a question that can't be responded to, sometimes you create more misunderstanding. So I want to see if you understand my answer or if you have another thought. This is what I wrote. Thank you for your thoughtful email, which it was. Sri Brahmananda's exact quote is, after first feeling and understanding God, then and then alone can we experience his omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. Otherwise not. Ordinarily, we think of God, so I'm talking now. I thought I was talking, but it sounded a lot like him. Ordinarily, we think of God as being separate from us. But through meditation, we come into direct contact with that which we truly are, which is godliness itself, or God itself. This is the meaning of I am that, and also I and my Father are one. These statements have nothing to do with ourselves as separate personalities, as separate individuals. These statements refer to our true state, which is beyond the body, mind, and senses. But to feel and understand this directly, the mind and all its so-called knowledge has to be put aside. And this we do through witnessing and through meditation. I said, I'm glad you emailed and hope this helped somewhat. Words can sometimes be misleading. I remember sitting at my computer and going, I didn't answer that question. But in a way, I didn't answer it, he did. And there is something in that response, because that just came, rattled off. There is something in that response that addresses what she asked when she said, was Guruji saying that since God is inside of us, that as we feel and understand ourselves more, that's when we will feel and understand God. What did you hear in my response that answered that directly? And was I giving her a negative response to a question or a positive one? Was I saying she was right? Or was I saying, no, that's the wrong understanding? I'm looking at the teachers. What do you think? You're not allowed to answer right away, Yogananda, because you're approximately enlightened. We have to go to those who are not approximately. You can answer, but it's better to let them, right? So what do you think? Was I, in my response, saying to the person who wrote to me, yeah, you're right, you got it? Or was I saying, no, not exactly. No, that's not what was meant by Guruji. What do you think? Be brave. You're not being graded. Yes, good. I know Gita. So Mother Gita.
Yeah.
Yes. So
when I got your response, I wasn't sure what it meant. I kind of felt like maybe I was not on the right track with your response.
That's why I was going like this to myself, that I answered too high. The answer's proper. That's what he would have said. But the reason I brought it tonight is because I wasn't satisfied. Something was missing.
That's why I didn't reply back, because
She didn't answer. And that's what I felt, that I would have gotten an answer if you said, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You would have written, thank you for confusing me more.
But thank you for
No, it's not. It's important, because if you had that question, Gita, others had the question. It's not easy to understand. And you can't answer it in just an email. You have to get into it a little bit. In the past number of weeks, we sometimes had cultural events, so I didn't have enough time to get into a discussion. But this warrants a discussion. And unless somebody wants to say something, did anyone feel that I was saying, no, it's not a question of understanding ourselves more before we can feel? How many thought I was saying it's not a question of understanding ourselves more in order to understand and feel God? How many thought that? Raise your hand. You didn't think that? You want me to read it one more time? Okay. But look at it from that question. In other words, yes.
Was it third party? I felt like there was a distinction she was looking for, like a real distinction. But I feel like the response was that this is not as distinguished, like, yes, make it as distinct. The separation. Like the questions from the duality.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Now we're more confused. No, but I know, Andrea, I know what you're saying. I know you're on the right track. It's like saying it's the wrong question. It's the wrong question. And my answer, I felt, was the right answer, but not clear. It needs down-to-earth language so that we can come away from this question and response feeling that we've got it, we've understood it, it's a matter of just applying it. So I'll read it again and listen from the standpoint of what Gita was asking. She had the feeling that since I was saying, Gurji was saying, God is within us, He's not separate from us, that we can understand ourselves more as human beings, right? As human beings, as spiritual beings. Then we stand a greater chance of understanding and feeling God, since I and my Father are one, right? Listen to my response and see if that's what I was saying. See if that's what Gurji was saying from this response. Sri Brahmananda's exact quote is this: after first feeling and understanding God, then and then alone can we experience His omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. That means feeling God as God actually is. Not according to religion's definition or our imagination, because many people would give you different images of God and a different understanding, a different definition. But Gurji is saying, no, I want you to feel and understand God as God is in its real identity. So, I added this because this is what I've heard from Gurji. Ordinarily, we think of God as being separate from us, higher, distant. But through meditation, we come into direct contact with that which we truly are, which is godliness itself. That's direct contact. This is the meaning of I am that. I and my Father are one. These statements, here we are, these statements have nothing to do with ourselves as personalities or as separate individuals. These statements refer to our true state, which is beyond the body, mind, and senses. Because it's the body, mind entity that makes up the separate individual, right? Body, mind, and senses. Those statements do not refer to those or that entity because those statements refer to a state beyond them. It says, these statements refer to our true state, which is beyond the body, the mind, and the senses. Our true state is not affected by the aging or the illness of the body, the decay of the body. It is not affected by the changing mind with its ups and downs and different personalities in one day. We have so many personalities. And the senses, which are constantly failing as we get older, that state has nothing to do with those changing states. But to feel and understand this directly, that the godliness is on a state beyond anything that's known by the body, mind, or senses, that insight can be experienced only when we are in direct contact with our real form, which is not our individual form. That I could have put that in it, right? And then I ended by, to feel and understand this directly, then the mind with all its theories and concepts and conclusions, all its so-called knowledge, that mind has to be put aside. So any opinion we have, any feeling, any understanding we have on the level of the mind has to be put aside if we are to have direct contact with God itself. Yeah.
To get to that direct contact, don't we have to first get through an understanding of the mind and the body and that self-analysis?
If you have the time.
Well,
It,
isn't that part of it too? I mean, when you're not in meditation, having an awareness and that self-exploration, doesn't that help you get to that?
it's that self-inquiry that can only be approached. Your question's great. Again, you asked very good questions. But again, what he told us is that to go through the body, mind, senses inquiry, you have to do it by negating. Not this, not this, not this. I cannot be this mind because I see this mind is changing all the time. And what I am is the changeless, motionless witness, if I can define myself as anything. What about the body? This is the big problem. We've been taught since we were old enough to understand anything that this is me. I always say something very funny that makes people laugh. I say, supposing, because I'm nearsighted, supposing I said to the person way in the back, I happen to know who it is, I know her very well, but I said, would you come here? Now, I look like I'm looking at 4 people. So would you come here? She would go, watch, who, me, right? That's what, you mean me? Who, me? She wouldn't go, do you mean me? Do you mean me? Do you mean me? Do you mean me? No, nobody does that. They say, do you mean me? Look where we're pointing. You see? How come? Because that's the Hridayam. I told you you'd laugh. It's so silly. You mean me? This is where we feel our beingness. That's the heart center, which we reach through meditation. So we may not know we know, but we know. Can you imagine if someone did not point here? You mean me? And yet we identify with this, we identify with our heart, We think it's our physical heart that beats more strongly when we're in love. No, it's this. It's this, where we feel. That's our center. Hridayam, the heart center. So when Gita says, well, don't we have to study? Don't we have? Yeah, if you want to be yoga teachers, you have to learn everything about the body because that's your field, that's your work. I don't. I prefer to learn everything about my soul and everything I can. And the way they tell us to go about this process is to do it through negating. So that during the day, here's a way to do it. You're feeling great. You woke up in the morning and it's sunny and it's marvelous. And then a thought comes, this is the last Saturday of the retreat, of the teacher training program. I asked my friend Lauren, I said, how do you feel about tomorrow, about the program ending? Sad. But a minute ago, she was smiling at me. Before I asked the question, it was my fault. I reminded her. But that's what we have to watch, Gita. What takes away our natural joy? What takes away our natural feeling of well-being? Only thinking. No problem can hurt us. No problem can disturb us as long as we don't think about it. Do you realize the power we hold over our enemies? I don't have to think about it. It's so true. If we're miserable, it's because we're allowing that memory to disturb us. If my suggestion to people is the same one I give myself. If something unpleasant happens, somebody says something, somebody does something that's staying with me before I'm going to sleep, I put into effect what I call the Scarlett O'Hara syndrome from Gone with the Wind. I say, fiddle-dee-dee, I'll think about that tomorrow. Or, in my case, because I have this I have this conditioning to be very sensitive to criticism. 99 people can tell me, that was a wonderful talk. If one person says, I hated what you said, I'm up all night. Or I could be. I used to be. Because I don't do well with criticism, especially when I don't feel it's fair. So what I've started to say to people and myself is wait 3 days before you think about it, if you can. Some things you have to think about right away because it calls for immediate attention. But most emotional things not. Most emotional things, take a vacation from the mind and say, I'm not going to think about this, write it down, this, 2, this, 3, that. Okay. And refuse attention. It's the attention that gets us into trouble. So that's the kind of inquiry to make. Inquiry about the body, unless you need to study anatomy and all of the nervous system, and yoga teachers should. I'm in favor of that because you're dealing with the body and you have to be concerned about the bodies of the people you're training. That has to be your responsibility. But if you're doing an inquiry about your own life, you can watch and see what makes you sick. What makes us sick is when our immune system goes down. And what's the one cause of our immune system going down? Stress. And what causes stress? Thinking. So we've come full circle. That's the kind of inquiry we make, self-inquiry. And Ramana Maharshi's inquiry was, who am I? Who's worrying? Who is this who's worrying? The mind? Yeah, that's not me. Who am I who knows that it's only the mind that's worrying? And go deeper, 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 deeper. Next thing you know, you're in deep meditation. Because there's no answer to that question except direct experience. So I'll ask again. I'll ask one more time. And Gita, I hope your hand goes up, because I don't think I have anything more to say on this topic. Yeah, it answered the question. It's not a question of our understanding ourselves as separate selves. It doesn't help. We just have to, put that to one side and just meditate. What we'll find out, and that's what is the beautiful part of being meditators, what we find out each time, that no matter, unless we're in too agitated a state to meditate, then we have to run, we have to do asanas, we have to do something to calm down a little bit. You cannot meditate in an agitated state. It's impossible. It's like trying to run the marathon with both legs broken. You can't do that. Agitation is directly against relaxation, which we need to go into meditation. To witness, we have to have the mind in reasonable condition. But the beautiful part about meditation is that if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling not frustrated you have to calm down a little, feeling lonely, feeling abandoned, feeling hurt, the beautiful thing is when you move away from thinking, you come upon your natural state, which is peaceful, blissful, compassionate, pure energy. And you say, well, whoa, what happened to my other condition? That's always waiting for you, like Shangri-La, like that wonderful movie that you're probably too young to know or remember, Lost Horizons. If you want to see a truly spiritual film, I showed it at one of the silent retreats, and it was perfect. Ronald Coleman, he used to be an actor. He's an actor like Ronald Coleman, like Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, that caliber actor from England. And Lost Horizons is a depiction of the spiritual place, Shangri-La, that exists beyond the mind. And when people are in Shangri-La in the movie, they remain forever young, forever healthy, forever loving and beautiful. But even those people became restless because they heard something about another world. I won't tell you what happens because the ending is one of the most astonishing endings you can possibly imagine. And it tells our story. It's our story. So does anyone feel, let me put it this way, is anyone not clear about what Gita's now clear about? Because it was Gita's question. It helps, I think I just put about 6,000 therapists out of business, which I didn't mean to do. It's good to go to a therapist. I send someone to a therapist every week who comes and wants me to be the therapist. I said, no, I have a very good therapist. You go over there. I'm not against self-analysis through therapy, because another thing that Gurdjieff said, which will help everybody, I think, is that sometimes we're in such a mess. We're so agitated. We're so lost in our personal relationships. There's no possibility of our even witnessing because we're too in a turmoil. That's when we have to say, well, my mind is neurotic. Well, my mind, sorry mind, but you are psychotic this week. And I know just the person to take you to. She's expensive, but well worth it, and we're going together to the therapist. Because there are times we need professional help. The mind does. If you can't afford a therapist or you don't know a good one, then you have to do other things, physical exercise to quiet the mind, and a practical thing like postponing worrying. And get yourself in reasonable condition, as if you went to Bermuda for the week and came back rested, better able to look at the problem. So if you yourself recognize that you're out of control, and sometimes you need a person, a good friend, to say, I think you need to see a therapist again. I think you need some help. Sometimes you do recognize it yourself without a friend, so you go. And if it's a good therapist, within a very short time, she'll be able to unravel what we cannot see objectively. I've never had to go through therapy. When I was due for it, I met Sri Brahmananda. And he made it very clear that even a good therapist wouldn't be enough for me. I needed a guru. That's what he kind of implied, and I never regretted it. So, anybody want to ask anything about this beginning? I'm glad Gita had helped. Good. Anybody else? Do you all raise your hand if you understood her question and the answer? Okay. If you have any confusion about this, please either you can email me, because I don't, at this moment, I couldn't say it any clearer. I think that's all I can say now. But if you email me with that question or something else, I'll see what comes at that time. Right now, I'm kind of eager to move on to the next reading, which is going to upset you more. You see, the people who were coming Saturday nights never told the people who weren't that it's not always good times. But it is. Ultimately, our guru stirred us up, made us nervous, and then calmed us down with truth. This is what's going to happen tonight. All right, I have to find it. I said that kind of laughingly, but don't think I'm not a little nervous about presenting this reading to you, because I so wanted a nice, sweet, kindly reading to come into my hands for this lovely, in Yogananda's words, amazing group of people that you are. I thought you deserved a gift. I was so upset that this strong-worded but amazing reading came into my hands that Dharmadeva and I went out and bought you flowers to make up for any kind of disturbance, because I'm not going to be there tomorrow at your graduation. I'm very proud of all of you and thrilled to know you, but I felt I wanted to give you something, because a number of you have come every Saturday night and taken it right on the chin. Because our teacher, Sri Brahmananda, was a revolutionary in the best sense of the word. He just liked to tell it as it is. He didn't like to tell stories alone. He was a Vedantist, and he aimed for the highest. After this teacher training program, I think we'll give you a degree in MFOTW. That's it. You have what certification do they have? Well, how are they certified now?
They are certified at 200-hour level as yoga teachers.
Yoga teachers. Now you can add to that MFOTW. This means the misfits of the world. You are now qualified to join the misfits, because we don't belong, but we're the leaders of the world. And this, you want a nice souvenir from the ashram? I don't get any money from it, only the ashram does. But there is a program, a DVD called Being a Misfit, and telling you how important it is to be a misfit. And you have that degree. You're the misfits of the world. Congratulations. Okay. When I said before that I wished I could have found an easier reading. I was remembering that someone recently said to me that she hadn't been calling me or writing to me because she was going through a happy period in her life. And although I never offer advice unless I'm asked, she said, if I come to see you, I know I'll have to ask certain questions, and I prefer to postpone them because I know inevitably I won't be this happy, and that's a better time to come to you. I said, why don't you come and just visit? Oh, no. She said, you kill people. I said, I do not. It's Susan, Mom. I said, I do not. She said, yes. Do you remember in Sri Nisargadatta's I Am That? Someone said, I came here to learn from you, Maharaj. And he said, you came here to commit suicide. That's the suicide of the ego. So take a deep breath. And now as you breathe out, release all the language, all the words. This will only be 60 seconds. So feel yourself letting go and opening up to this now. Feeling it, perceiving it, imbibing it. Sometimes it only takes 1 minute to reconnect with your real life, your real home. I am that I am. That is our home. Krishna Devi, would you lead us in our traditional prayer? Japita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhus Chasaka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Om Shanti 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 Thank you, Krishna Devi. And if some of you are feeling very high, that you may need a designated driver, take 2 cookies. Chocolate chip is a great way to come back to earth.